I was sat here and I realized that I haven't done a single video about Wuthering Waves' music in a really long time, partly because I've been playing it so much on stream with story beats and stuff that I didn't even stop to consider, hey, maybe Marco, you should, do what you do because that's your job, and that's talk about music. So today we're gonna crash through like a lot of songs. I may not listen to every single part of every single song, but I do want to spend some time talking about some of the emotional pulls that make these songs some of the best. And also some of the most downloaded, but there are some songs that I really like in here too. But I want to start with Against the Tide.
As whispers ride the wind in my ears, and dusk has brought the dawn of my fears. I can't devour what happens in the light, and shine and shadow don't build of night. Strike my blade in rhythm with the storm, entwined by fate, summon the ashen swarm. If freedom must be robbed by the waves, let this crown melt to dust and be carried away. So let the gale become one with me. Follow me, the dawn will.
Okay, I'm gonna try to stop like one or two times each of these because there's a lot of songs. But the one thing I think really stands out to me and how amazing this is first of all, Ford's singing is so vulnerable. Lots of that, a lot of this throat thing. And Obadiah Brown Beach is an amazing composer. And so the thing is, Cartathea, we don't really see her. I mean, we see her be emotional, but this feels like the internal world, the internal subtext that we typically won't get in the story. And that goes for a lot of the songs that I've sort of picked and also just in general. The music in Wuthering Waves does a great job of showcasing a song that is correlated to character and feeling and character interpretation. There's a lot of noise out there about Woowa's depth and, the decisions made, story beat, so on and so forth. But I think one spot where this is sort of inapplicable is the music. Like this Against the Tide here really tells a profound story about how Cartathea really has to navigate this balancing act between the weight and pressure of her in the story. Like she has to sort of navigate what it means to be in her position. She has to figure out for herself, how do I reconcile with everything that's happened in up to this point, and how do I choose to essentially own who I am? Now those are pretty generic statements, but they're tropes, and those tropes carry through a lot of video game music, and I think especially in this particular track with Against the Tide, it feels like it's okay, well, who am I? Where do I fit in? Where do I belong? Where is my calling, my place in the world? There's all these questions happening, you know what I mean? But also through those questions, one has to choose to be committed to taking action. And the music is somber, melancholic, but also energized. And so there's a bit of push and pull where a lot of times in our lives we'll feel anxious and frustrated and scared, but we also have to take action because life doesn't necessarily allow us, or maybe it does and we are choosing to reject it or whatever. It doesn't necessarily allow us to stand still. And I think this is a prime example of that. Because this is all building up to the big climax. Nice, we take a break. See, and that's interesting because I know what comes later when she goes to the climax. The air around me, open up the skies. So the reason why it's actually incredibly effective, and I actually hadn't heard this in a minute, so is because we do what she did here. It's actually pretty slow for her. Me. Thy forward opening up the sky. See, she doesn't even do any of the embellishments that she does later. That's because that really, really, really is extremely setting the bar. Because, let me fast forward. Listen to this. When we have that big pivot, kind of a same emotional, a little bit of a build up, obviously. But you actually feel it because it actually kind of slows down slightly as she's sort of like pensive and reflective. But listen to how it goes. You get the beautiful piano in the back, right? Kind of talking to herself. But then the big pivot happens. You hear how now it's actually more animated. There's a little bit more propulsion in it, a little bit more even aggression maybe. There's a bit of a feeling of stress. Fight to turn the tide. Ready? Big break, and then slow rhythm, slow drum set. The sky. Still got good. Miles around. Wow. I'll find my way out. And then we slow down. She goes up and resolves. And so the reason why I wanted to highlight these two particular sections in the chorus, basically, is because it's important. The first half is a specific way because we want the climax to be incredibly satisfying and to level up and to dial the knob up to 15. That's important for you to know, right? That's important for you to be like, oh, that's interesting that like the first part's kind of pulled back, kind of subtle, but then the last part is huge. It's an expulsion of emotion because we need to not only have a journey to go on, and actually this piece is interesting because it has levels, but really the climax, the peak is at the end. That's important because that makes us feel even more connected to this character because it's the release. We don't have a constant release. We have a gradual and natural buildup to the climax that then sends it home. And that's very important. It's one of my favorite pieces. One of my absolute favorite themes from Wuthering Waves actually is the beginning of our story. And instead of like, I've actually done a reaction on this in a live stream, but instead of like talking about the music, I want to watch this footage. This is an amazing piano piece, actually. And really all the Black Shore Shorekeeper stuff is really where we start to really like dial up from the sort of 1.0 stuff that I didn't care for. This piece is actually profoundly good in a modern classical sense. You know, that piano gives you dreamy space vibes. It's very, you know, free-flowing, free-falling kind of. That super like dialed in vocals, obviously. But you see, this is all like a gradual like build. This is like responsibility and the weight of action and just beautiful slow down bows and up bows on the strings. While this soloist is obviously moving. And technically right now the violin is the solo, but it's in tandem with the piano. As the piano sort of subdivides and gives that momentum in this piece. But that's because Shorekeeper has to take action. Shorekeeper's trying to figure out who she is. What does all this mean? Much, actually not that dissimilarly to the Cardothea stuff. And then notice that when the brass comes in, we pick up. I think there's also vocals. No. But you feel that weight in that? Here we go. It's like a ship taking off, launching. Reality unfurling. I actually love this video. I'll stop talking. Nice lift. She's playing octaves, which give it that sense of space and feeling right there. I think it's octaves. Yeah, it looks like it. Nice and open. You feel that momentum starts to really double down and pick up on itself? And then it goes up. It's so virtuosic and so emotional. Together we can achieve anything. We can conquer the world. Here comes the piano. I love this. This pianist is incredible. It like shifts from like this like sort of modern age classical piece to like feels very classical. She's so precise. And to have that lift, and then we get that beautiful shorekeeper theme. God, I forgot how beautiful that is. There's a little bit of dissonance, but it's really comforting, right? Oh, it's such a gorgeous piece. I think actually, you know what? That might be one of my favorite pieces, if not my favorite. There's just something about the sort of natural momentum in this that's just absolutely beautiful. And it's like super personal and honest. And I also love the sort of new age classical into this, you know, like I mentioned, this sort of the fast arpeggiation, the fast cascading down, a downturn of notes that are just so, it's just so alive. It feels so capable, you know, and emotionally, it feels like we finally just decide to make a commitment and honor ourselves, you know, and in a lot of ways Against the Tide, it's not totally dissimilar. That cascading, it really feels like it's taking action and committing to oneself, you know, kind of like Against the Tide. So, I mean, after all, they're the sort of character themes. CHISA, one of my favorite characters in the game. So Tangled Flower it's the song where, you know, Senpai and the wind blows and stuff, you know what I'm talking about. Listen to this. I just really like piano tracks. And I think, frankly, not to stop right there, but in the upper register, there's this purity that comes from that. It's like heaven. It's like saying, like, oh my God, I see you, I believe in you, I trust this. I'm gonna commit to this with you. I'm going to have faith that things are gonna work out. I do wish that CHISA was used more in Wuthering Waves. I feel like, yeah, she makes like her little NPC appearances, but I actually felt like 2.8 was such a high point for the execution of the story. I thought that it was certainly one of my favorite story beats that Wu has had, and it certainly was a major change for me after 2.6 and 2.7, which I really didn't care for after 2.5, which I loved. 2.8 was also a real high point, and then subsequently 3.1, and then of course 3.3. But there's something about this that is so pure and innocent, much in the way that CHISA is. I think there's a dreamy, like a hope and a desire. These themes are they kind of exist in a sense that they always kind of appear in different ways. And the thing is, like, composers take songs or take emotive thoughts and emotions, and they'll usually do similar tricks, you know, or similar feelings, produce similar sounds, but they can also twist those and turn those and make them their own sense of expression, if I make sense. So, like, as an example, this could fit in with Shorekeeper. There's a little bit more purity in it because of where it's lying and how it starts. You know, notice that a lot of the sort of natural buildup happens with Shorekeeper near the middle end, whereas this starts with that sort of like blissful, listless naiveness that comes from that wonderful upper register in the piano. And then, of course, we get the guitar, which also changes the emotion, right? A little bit of like cybernetic sound, of course. So there's something about, and I don't think these lyrics have words, but there's something about this particular sound that is just incredibly satisfying to me. Now you have the solo soprano, real breathy, airy, na-dee, ta-da. So it goes up, ba-dee, goes back down to the lower note, da-da. That in itself is like naive, gentle, young. And what I find really lovely about it is that it's just all of it's gentle. All of it's like, man, like, isn't the sky beautiful? You know, who looks up at the sky and says, is the sky beautiful? Not that many people, especially not jaded people. But in this case, we have CHISA, who is bright. And even though she's suffered a lot, still has this sort of naivete, right? Like I mentioned earlier, this innocence. And that innocence is so hard to find. And so you kind of hold it like a little baby bird. Ba-dee-ba-da, da-dee-da-da. And obviously I'm a huge Near fan. I love Near so much. And obviously the made up lyrics, I'm assuming these are, imagine it's like English and I didn't even understand it, but like the made up lyrics, I think give way to that feeling of like, what is she saying? You know, like it makes you lean forward a little bit, much in the same way that Stellar Blade does it, much in the same way that Near does it. This is a very Near coded song. And then I forgot about that. That's really nice. And then it picks up actually. Actually love the strings there. And you get a little bit of a harmony too. There's something interesting about the echo there and the very tight harmony of this corner where we just stopped, where all of a sudden we pick up. And it's like, hey, don't take me for granted. Like I may be young, I may be foolish, I maybe don't know as much as you do, but that doesn't mean that I'm not helpful. That doesn't mean that I can't contribute. That doesn't mean that I'm not strong. And I like how the harmony sort of guides that feeling of like, there's more to this. There's more to me than meets the eye. And also, yeah, see, because even the piano, bam, bum, 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 it's like raindrops. And then the guitar is just in there sort of buoying the piano, kind of dancing around, you know? I love that here at the end we strip away we strip away the lyrics and we just have the wonderful ha. Again, it's extremely airy, extremely young and innocent. There's a purity in that air that kind of is coming through on that mic. And that's all great because again, that just leads to like, man, I love a rainbow, you know? I want to pop over to Husk of Broken Dreams. It's not the one Lost in Reverie or whatever. I forget that song's exact title. The really sad Furlova one. I wanted to go over to Husk of Broken Dreams, which obviously is related to Furlova because it's excellent tragedy musically. Get yourself like a dampened piano. Lots of that sort of synthetic wind sound. But even that. Don't you hear how like that goes up? Oh, there's possibility. Oh no, no, there isn't. You know.
Come close, isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, that's pretty.
The gown embroidered with
See, again, that whole phrase is ba-da-da yada ba-da yada. Sad. That's sad. And what makes it even sadder is the sliding. Da-dee-da-yada-yada, fools of gold. Because why would you slide unless you're tired? You know? It's not ba-beep-pa-pa-pa-pa-beep-pa-pa-pa. No. It's da-dee-da-dee-da-da-ya, fools of gold. It's broken. It's on its knees. It's like, God, I'm so tired.
Toast to death, the most generous liar.
I love how slow and like kind of pulled in this is.
Venom of fight.
My phone. Nice bass there, kind of re-emphasizing. So it moves down. She basically is kind of speak singing, kind of staying stagnant. It's cool. It's cool because the strings catch the vocals, so they meet at certain parts tonally. So the strings are acting essentially as well, the harmony. So they end up they start at the same place, but then they kind of do this. And then they interlock, and it's nice because that it's sort of buoying the thing as the bass moves down into depression. The vocals are kind of trying to take off, and they're met in hand with this orchestra or the string section, which is guiding them to never really taking off, which is really beautiful.
I just stand on the cliffs and watch the winds of the winter run on black to regret leaves my starving eye.
Love the little trill there. Leaves my starry eye. But also looking how we almost peak, right? Nice body there with the lower bass. A sea. I stand on the cliff and watch my land on the wind run. So it's interesting because it tries to go. So it tries to triplet its way out of this state. And then it feels like it gets pulled back. It's grabbed by the waist and it's pulled back. It's really powerful.
Leaves my starving eyes.
Leaves my starving eyes. And then we pick up with this low emphasis, right? And this reminds me of the opening with that synthetic quality. Like, how could you do this? Don't you get it? There's exhaustion in that and anger. And then you even get it. Thunk, thunk. Thunk, thunk. Yeah. A little bit of momentum here with that acoustic guitar coming in. So it's not just the same thing repeated. There's a little bit more emphasis. Kind of it's doing its own thing, but it's in sync with the voices. Love that. It's kind of, this is the moment where I think Frulova really makes the commitment to, like, She's taking care of herself. And you even hear it in the music. Even though it's sad and broken, it says, you know what? I can't rely on anybody. I'm done. I'm done relying on anybody. So there's still commitment to the self in that music. And I think usually really because of the rhythmic identity there. Da dee da 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 dee da da. Don't get me wrong. It's still sad, but it's sending home the idea that like, it doesn't matter how sad I get. It doesn't matter when I hit rock bottom. If no one's going to come for me, I'm going to come for myself. I'm going to take care of this because I have to. Right. And I think that that's really profound.
I once called you.
Even Stevie says, I once called you and you're not here, right?
Did you hear
Did you hear my silent plea? She's begging. Do you hear this?
I just want you the winds and waves that run all of our lives, one by one, until there's nothing left.
I actually love the guitar in that. I think the guitar adds such a beautiful color. It's interesting because then you basically end up with the solo piano there at the end there playing, especially playing that lower note at the very end of that piece. Really satisfying. You know, there are a lot of songs to talk about actually, more than I think I realized. Again, like I've been playing the game and most of you have watched me play the game. So you know that I'm experiencing this music within the given context, which honestly is a lot harder for me than to start talking about it out of context because I already know what's going on. So it's kind of like, well, you know what happens is this. It's usually easier for me to extrapolate feelings and emotion in music while having not seen the visuals. But it is what it is. There's a lot of other stuff that we could definitely talk about, but I want to pivot over to this incredible Victor Borba, Casey Lee Williams, Heart of La-Hai Roi, the LF1 boss theme. Really, really substantial. At first I was kind of like, what? But now that I've listened to it a bunch, I actually really like it. I'm just going to let it play out, talk over it. Might stop and start, but yeah. Eclipse. I love it. I love it, like the like robotic synthetic energy in that. Boom. Elevate, ascend to the heights, hand in hand, a burning fire ignites, through darkness shines the light, oscillating, crashing the tide, together we'll transcend. I mean, it's incredible stuff. First of all, obviously in unison, this is the Imeth and Rover unison action, unison commitment. Obviously, hand in hand, together will transcend. Could also be the Exostrider and Rover. It could be anything, but like it's obviously two people. Maybe even Victor and Casey are representing the Rover, and because there's two of them, it could be anything. But all that to say, like I love how they're both in the upper register, and it's really like that wail, you know, elevate the dot. Because if it was down here where I'm singing it. It wouldn't be that effective. Hand in hand, together we'll transcend. You know what I mean? It just isn't nearly as effective as this. I don't know how he does that. Oblivion, oscillating, crashing the tide. Like that's high, and like I've talked to Victor. You can check out the interview, and this is high. The fact that he lives in that spot, I mean, me as a tenor, I have a lot more chest and body that's coming into that. I mean, I wouldn't even sing this upper register. So the fact that he's singing this is just crazy because it's just such a phenomenal feat, to be honest. I love when the strings come in. We kind of reset softly. Also really appreciate the rhythm there. It's fun. It's tight. Despierta ascenso renacer activar. Is this? Ascenso. Memories fade into the wind. It's actually nice to hear his vocal. As the waves drift into nothingness. Yeah, that's fun. Please lift you up. I love that. How could mortal wisdom lift you up? I love how there's emphasis on mortal wisdom lift you up rhythmically. How could mortal wisdom lift you up? Because it's kind of, well, lifting up mortal wisdom. That's where the rhythm kicks in, and it's letting you know, hey, mortal wisdom lifted you up. Ba beep ba ba beep ba beep ba. Right, that's fun. From above we go up, right? Nice. Life, major, bright. Now we get Exo Strider. Doom, doom, shum, doom, doom. Major! Key change. Ascend to the heights hand in hand. Yeah, and I appreciate the stank on it. I mean, it's a fun piece. I will be honest and say that it's a little bit campy for me, not in necessarily like a negative way. It doesn't appeal to me nearly as much as the track I'm about to play for you. You probably already know which track I'm going to sit down and talk about here for probably 15 minutes, but it's fun. And I think like ultimately like it's a moment of coalescence where we come together, we unify against a common enemy and a common cause, and then we take action. And that's great. And that's fine. I'm not crazy about, I mean, I like both Victor and Casey singing, so it's not that, but it's just a little bit campy, but I think it serves the purpose really well, and for that, you know, no credit not given, because it's great, but it doesn't compare to this for me. I mean, first of all, Art Core. This is Denya's boss theme. Art Core and Wu was kind of a shocker to me. I didn't even know what Art Core was until recently, but taking this really heavy rhythm, and really what it ultimately comes down to is, and I know that this is a paraphrase of like what, Beethoven's Eighth, I think. I haven't sat down and listened to Beethoven's Eighth, but what's really impressive to me about this though is that we essentially get the psychosis and the push and pull of Denya. If Denya is the classical, then the Aleph 1, you know, shadow version of her imbued with it within her. Obviously, I know the story, so like, you know, that's the like heavy rhythm, and so those two things are in constant tension and in essentially conflict with each other, right? Because I mean, there's elegance, there's grace, and then there's also twistedness. Obviously, the music box is Denya's innocence or desire to be innocent, right? Lower piano speeding up, and then it's right in fast rhythm. Wonderful timpani in there, too. And again, here the juxtaposition between, again, Aleph 1 and that choral chant and choral movement being so aggressive, coupled with the strong beat pattern to then pull back into the music box, is this constant Jekyll and Hyde back and forth quality that Denya is sort of forced to have. It is pulling her in a million different directions. It's being, you know, like this. And she just has to sort of try to figure it out while essentially fighting us, even though she doesn't want to per se, right? But again, I really love how twisted and dark that is because of that sort of semi-mechanical, cybernetic, automotive kind of sound. That feels like it's ripping us apart, and that's really ultimately the theme here. Like everything kind of aids that process. But I love how distorted and twisted that is. It's very sound effect heavy. And you throw in a harpsichord in here with the heavy oonts with a violin, virtuosic playing. And then to like bria, those are hits. Bria, 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 ba 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 ba. That's move sets, right? And the move set is visualized or felt, at least auditorily, through the music, which is really fun. Muted piano, I love that. And again, there too, prime example. Again, duality, right? And then you get this wonderful cello. This part's sick. The whispering. Children, a lullaby, a children's song. It's just a simple la 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 with this heavy. It doesn't make sense. It's not conjoined. It's whiplash. It's confusion. A lot of whisper. Excellent hearing the harpsichord like this. Da-da-dee-da, da-da-dee-da-dee-da-dee. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It goes hard, like it's fast. Listen to that. And what's cool is that it gives it an edge where it sounds dangerous and it's actually kind of like intoxicating to listen to because it's just nonstop with that sound. Like it's just different. It's extremely unique while taking something that's obviously very old and twisting it, turning it, and making it modern. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that to me. Like to me, that is just excellent. Now I want to move over to phase 2. Now, of course, you get the low soprano vocals. Danger, rage, violence. Build here. Heartbeat. Bum, bum, sh, dum, da, da, dee, da, da, da. Da dee da 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 dee da da. Must be, it feels like we're picking it apart, you know? Da, 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 da. And you see how right here, right where we stop, this melodic line, that's the desperation that I think Denya feels, where she's being torn apart at the seams. And in this moment, she's desperate for, I think, ultimately for release. And so you have all this sort of back and forth, which is a lot of the stuff that I mentioned prior. Now this is a little bit more, I think, fleshed out. Obviously it's faster, but it's also a little bit more aggressive. And I think this is when the desperation kind of reaches these peak levels where it's like, please, please, please almost put me out of my misery, right? Because she's being forced and like sort of has been roped into this thing that she never really even signed up for. She was just told that that's what she had to do. And so here you have this, the melody, the melodic line of it is actually kind of surprising, because that's like as if to say, please, please, please let me be done. And I think it's interesting to use classical based music in this. And I think really because classical music, different than Baroque, but classical music is structured. Like everything is very proper. There's forms. There's the way that we do things in classical music. There's structure. There's organization. There's, not to the degree of Baroque music, like I said, but it's definitely there. Whereas here it's kind of like we distort that, we flip it, we twist it, we contort it, we make it something new, and that is not a good thing. That is a dangerous and vile and an inappropriate thing. It's almost like making something that is beautiful ugly, or not to say that the piece is ugly, right? But that's the purpose of it. There's aggression in it that sort of disrupts it, and it becomes perverted almost musically. You know what I mean? Like it twists it in a really fun and interesting way. Nice. But realistically, the second phase, really the last 4 minutes, that's where we get the most organization and the most like structure. The first half is just like, holy crap, it like knocks you off your feet, and it's twisted, right? It's disturbing. It's convoluted. It's artcore. It's heavy. It's chaotic. The back half is actually more unified, even though it's disturbing and uncomfortable. Or its intention is to be that, it's much more structured and organized, because that's even because that's the fight proper, right? It's an excellent theme, and I think it's really fun, and it's definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorite, certainly my favorite boss theme. This portion of the story is really nice because it was fun to take a look at classical music, but then twist it on its head. Whereas like the sort of rock ballads, I'm not really crazy about them. Like Lupa's theme doesn't really do it for me. There's a couple other themes that I'm like, but like it's always good, right? Like the production quality is insanely high. It's just that pieces like this are far more interesting to me musically because they tap into the stuff that I am connected to and have understood for, almost a quarter of my life. And I think like that's fun to me. I do like the other stuff, the rock ballads and, Glory Shall I Fall and basically all of Carthathia's like songs I love. But there are other things like Phoebe's tracks that I don't necessarily care for just because it's not really like, it's not really my thing. But I like those things. I like that those things are in the game. I like that they're leaning into these characters and trying to really flesh them out musically. I think Wuthering Waves' music is in a great spot. If anything, I would love more, but that's not really, I was going to say more classically based pieces that then modify and twist, but that's not really the scope of the game. The game is a modern approach. So even in Shorekeeper's case, that music, classical, but like a new class, not even neoclassical because that's a different time period, but it's a sort of modernization of classical writing. That is, I think, if you put it in a symphony hall, would be beautiful, but it's not going to be as like fleshed out and as expansive based on the structures and forms and stuff that classical music innately has within it, and that's fine. But I think overall, like, it's really hard. I mean, there's not much to say about Wu's music other than I think it's great now. There's a lot of variety in it. We didn't even look at some of the overworld ambient themes, which are there in droves. Certainly, anything I ever said from 1.0 on, 1.0 was its own little thing, and I still really desperately want them to go back and make adjustments. But anyway, all that to say, like, it's pretty amazing where we are in Wu's life cycle and life history, and I enjoy it so much. It's such a fun game, and we should definitely be doing more of these videos. So if you like this, feel free to like, subscribe, feel free to join the Discord, feel free to join the Patreon if you want to support the channel more directly. Thanks a ton, and I'll see you later, guys.